One. And the amazing thing is today I am in conversation with Adrian Benjamin. Now, if you don't know Adrian, he's a business protection advisor. What is that? I ask you, I think you're asking. So we're going to find out exactly what that is in a moment. But just let you know, Adrian was previously a financial consultant. He has over 10 years experience working internationally for some of the largest investment and corporate banks in the world, such as UBS, HSBC, NatWest, Barclays, RBS, and many, many more. Now, he then took it upon himself to go down the small business route and help business owners to really protect their assets and protect what they have created. Adrian, welcome to the Business and Wealth Show.
Thank you for having me, Mac.
You are most welcome. Adrian, typically at the beginning of these shows, I ask our guests to talk about their entrepreneurial experience. I know you worked in corporate companies for many years and then you transitioned. What was that transition like? What happened?
Oh, that's a long answer. So basically, I think when I was at university, I did business studies, and
Oh,
I was always fascinated by banking because you need that in a business. That's important. So I just thought, back in the day, I just walked up to the managers of the NatWest branch and just said, "Hey, I want to get experience, and I'll work for free." I don't think you'll be able to do that now. So I'm showing my age a bit. And he was just
yeah.
saying, he basically said, there's an issue that we don't really understand. Can you just do it? And that's how I got my foot in the door, was just asking. But how I did it was, what problems have you got? And I'll try and help you find it. And that has helped me a lot in my career, just that little word, basically. So I worked at NatWest in Manchester for a couple of months. And then my boss and everyone I worked with said I'd be better suited for corporate investment. And then once I graduated, I was 22 when I graduated. I got a Mountbatten internship
Okay.
to work for UBS, which is one of the biggest Swiss investment banks in the world, in 2009. So the Mountbatten internship is basically the apprentice on steroids, is what I like to say.
Right.
So you basically have 200 graduates from all around the world, and we all live together in apartments,
Oh,
and we
wow.
work it full time. So yeah, so America is different to the UK. So in the UK, normally you will have your own room. In America, you have to share it with someone.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's part of the plan. So you could be sharing with one person, you might be sharing with two people.
Right, right. Wow.
So yeah, yeah. So there are a lot of stories. I don't think I could say the stories on the podcast, but it's basically you're in the deep end and you got to try and survive. Basically, it's from being in a brand new environment and then you have a full-time job, probably working eight to
Yeah.
six, and then you've got to study for your masters as well. So we'd have class every week. So that was a great insight into how one of the largest companies in the world operate. And then when I got back to the UK, worked for the Royal Bank of Scotland in the invoice finance division. So again, in that invoice finance is helping smaller businesses with funding. So even in your book, the audio book that I'm listening to at the minute, Mac, that you put
Face it and
out,
fix it.
yeah, yeah. So I'm listening to that.
You
A
enjoying
lot
that
of
book?
issues.
Are you enjoying that book?
I am enjoying it.
Right.
And I think there's a point that you highlighted in your book as well. A lot of issues with smaller businesses is they are profitable, so they have a good product, but they might not get paid on time.
Mm,
So it's cash flow, and that's why they fail. So me working on a Bank of Scotland, what invoice finance is, if you have a sales invoice for £1,000,
yeah.
if you could be chasing for that £1,000, then it could be months, and then obviously the business is going to crash. So with invoice finance, you give a percentage up that the bank takes, and then you get it. So you might say, instead of me getting £1,000 and then chasing your customers, I'll take £850, and then the bank can do the rest of it. So that's how small business can ramp up. So it was great to see that from that perspective. And then I fell into contracting. So then that kind of is onto the entrepreneurial bit where you're self-employed.
Hmm.
Um, so when we had the crash of 2008, 2009, the FCA, Financial Conduct Authority, said we can't have the investment bank playing with mine or your money, basically. So HSBC had to create a brand new bank. So on the high street, when you see HSBC UK, that was the project that I worked on to help create.
Oh, I
So we
see.
basically, yeah, basically brand new bank out of nothing. So you can imagine the pressure and the stress of doing that and telling clients that all your sort codes and account numbers are changing, and yeah, we're gonna change everything over. Yeah, so that was a good experience. So when I was doing that, I was self-employed.
Mm.
And then after that, I've worked on other projects as well with like Visa, Bloomberg, and Deloitte, and again, big corporates. And then COVID happened, 2020, and I kind of wanted to change. I wanted to do something else. I wanted to be a mortgage broker,
All
so
right.
I wanted to study because I've got a lot of property friends. I had a property business at the time, and when I was studying for my CMAP qualification, the mortgage qualification, there was a module on insurance, and I was like, no one talks about insurance. It kind
Interesting.
of has a negative connotations.
Yeah.
And when I was studying, I was reading, and I was thinking, well, you'll be in a position where you can financially help your family. You know, you can give them X amount of money without ever earning it. And that's kind of for me when the light bulb went off. We're all going to pass at some point. Businesses, they're growing. Some business owners want to exit. Once that does happen, then what happens? And especially with business owners, there are products that I specialize in where you can pass on generational wealth, and you don't have to pay for the policy, which we'll probably get into a little bit later.
Right.
So yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of how the light bulb moment
Yeah.
happened. So yeah, 10 years of corporate. So it's great that I understand from some of the biggest companies in the world. And then also when we work at the banks, smaller companies, startups, more established companies, how they operate. And then being self-employed myself and having, do my own thing, I can see the whole 360, which a lot of people don't necessarily do. It's very difficult doing international corporate, being an SME, and then being self-employed and doing your own thing. Like they're three completely different business models and skill
Really.
sets.
So
Yeah.
tell us why does a business owner need business protection or insurance in your case? There are many small business owners getting on with their day to day, not even thinking about insurance for the business, but they'll think about insurance for their house, for their car, their life. But from a business point of view, what does that mean?
Yeah, everything you're saying is completely correct. It's always revenue, 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 profit. We never look at ourselves. So with the products that I specialize in with business owners, you're going to be self-employed majority of them, and you're putting all your energy and effort into the business. So there's kind of three levels that I explain to all my clients. So in the short term, if you get ill and you can't work, if you're, sole trader, limited company, most people, everything kind of stops. And that's also me being self-employed as well. Like you're kind of on that hamster wheel of you can't stop even if you're ill. And
Right.
that's going to lead to, again, back to your book, is going to lead to burnout, and you can do
Mhm.
yourself like some serious damage. So if you were ill for whatever reason, and as long as you medically can't work, you can actually take a break. So it's actually your own personal health, your own mental health. They're like the bigger things that people look at instead of looking at the business protection or the, professional indemnity insurance, things like that. So your own health is the main thing. A lot of business owners that I've speaking to over the years, mental health is a major issue.
Right.
Um, a lot of the clients that I speak to, especially the ones that make the most money, they're under the most amount of stress.
Mm.
And, I was on all client calls, I'm like, if anything happens to you medically, like what happens? And the answer is, I don't know, and
So
you might
let's
have it,
let's talk about that then, because look, do you work with when you say small business, is it small businesses of a certain size with a certain team, or could it be a sole trader, a self-employed person who the whole business hinges on?
yeah, both. I work with
Oh,
both. Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
So, okay, so I want to take the scenario of a small business owner who's mostly doing the work on his own. Maybe he's got an assistant. He or she has an assistant. Something happens to them and they can't be in the business. Are you saying there's insurance that can help them to ride that wave?
Yeah, for themselves personally. So let's say you're off with stress, right? And
Hmm.
you've got a GP sick note. You then give that to the insurance company. And then after maybe a month or three, you then get that paid that monthly income. So you get a percentage of what you earn. And with that, you can take the time to rest and get better. That's what that's for. So again, if it's just you, then there's more pressure on you. If you are an established business, you might have other directors. So if you are off ill, it's not great, but the company can still function. They can still still want to make a profit. So it's kind of two separate things. But even if you're in an established business or you're self-employed, it's still the same thing. You need to look after your health.
Yeah.
Because like you said in your book, burnout is a real thing. Mental health is a real thing. Again, I've got a lot of clients where some of them have been off long-term sick with stress. It's not necessarily the example of being hit by a bus. That's an extreme example, but you're more likely to be off work through being stressed out, getting
Correct.
depression, anxiety, musculoskeletal. I've got a bad back at the minute. It's
Yeah.
bad. All those things are going to contribute to you not working. So once you protect yourself financially and physically, it's going to be a lot better. Because if you're in the corporate world where I was, and where you've been as well, Matt, you normally get all these benefits thrown in with your salary. So a
That's
lot of
right.
people don't even understand how expensive it actually is. But when you're on your own, you've got to pay for it all yourself. But if you are a limited company director, and that's, I specialize more with them, is you get bigger tax breaks. So if you do put the income protection or your personal sick pay through the business, it's an allowable business expense. So that's
Say
going
it
to
again.
help.
Say it again. So
That's
if you put your insurance through the business insurance through the business, it's a taxable um, expense. Is that what you
some
said?
of the products, yeah, not all of them, but some of them. So if your own sickness, so
Yeah.
executive income protection is what it is. If you're a limited company director, 80% of what you earn, if you're off sick and you've got a GP certificate, you can get 80%.
A
Whereas if you
GP, for those listening from outside the UK, is a general practitioner. So a doctor's
doctor, yeah,
certificate. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, yeah. As long as you've got proof, you can get 80% of what you earn. Whereas if you don't have that and you are off sick, the thing about savings is they take years to build up and it takes months to burn through.
Yeah.
And I think people don't really understand that. So even me, during COVID, I was out of work for like nearly a year. So, but because I had the emergency fund, you build up that nest egg for a reason because there's things that you just can't foresee. So I think I've been suited for this role because, again, working in banking and then COVID, everything that you don't normally think about from a business perspective, and people don't think about it either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Insurance is at the bottom of the list, like you said, which is fine, but you need to really look at it at the beginning because, like we said, if you're a corporate HSBC and you're, senior member of staff, you're going to get all these benefits as standard.
Works.
But because they have more money, they can do that. If you're
Right.
starting out, if you're like the sole trader example, if you don't work, then the income stops, just period. So
Right.
anyone that's self-employed, it doesn't matter if you are an office worker, if you do sales, if you're a plumber, if it's physical, like it doesn't matter what job you do. If you're self-employed, you need that first before we even get into life insurance.
And what are some of the product names that people may have heard or not heard in terms of this kind of insurance, emergency insurance, in case you as the business owner is not able to work?
Yeah, so if it's a limited company, it's executive income protection. If it's a sole
Executive
trader,
income
income,
protection. Okay.
and then sole trader, it's just income protection.
Income protection. And so uh, do people business owners have to go to specialists like yourself, or is this something they can get from the main banks?
With the products that I specialize in, that it's best to come to me. I'm
Right.
independent, so I'm not tied to a certain provider. A lot of
Okay.
people, some banks do offer insurance, but again, it might not be the best, and it depends on the product as well, because all the products are different. A major thing in insurance as well is your health status.
Okay.
So it depends on your age, your height, your weight, your BMI. Do you smoke? All those things, you have high blood pressure, can affect the price of the premium. So the number one question I always get asked is how much it's going to cost. And I actually don't know. Until we do your medical questions, I've got no idea. If you are getting a product where there is no medical information being asked, I would always kind of question it or look at it a little bit deeper as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's many suppliers of these emergency uh covers. There's
Yeah.
quite right, but you've got access to, because you're independent, you've got access to the marketplace,
Yeah. Whole of market. Exactly. Yeah.
the whole of market. So the benefit of coming to you is you can really look at the benefit for your client and be independent and give them the best possible product rather than whatever their bank may be pushing, which may be beneficial to them or not. And often it'll probably be in the interest of the bank themselves to push that particular
Yeah,
product, right?
exactly. Yeah. And then another point as well, cheapest doesn't always mean it's the best.
Right.
That's another thing I come across in my industry is, oh, the cheapest has got to be the best. And
Hmm.
I just say, do you want a car that's, cheap and more likely to break down, or something that's more expensive and is going to work properly? So
Hmm.
when it comes to your, insurances, you've got to go for the most comprehensive.
Most comprehensive. Got it. Got it. So why do why are business owners, do you think, are not avail to this type of information? Why is it that
Yeah.
it's not an obvious thing or it's not shouted about?
Good question. Even when I worked at the bank, they just don't promote it. Insurance is this thing that no one really understands, and they just put it over there when it's one of the most important things that you're ever going to need. Because you're going to have, as you've got some friends and business clients where, they want to exit or they want their kids to inherit the business, but if there's no money there, then how is that going to work? These are things that business owners really need to think of, like, what is my legacy after this? Um,
So describe all that, how that works then, because you're saying, what I'm hearing you saying, if you're not there and your child inherits the business or the business, you're not there to run the business. How does insurance then help the beneficiary of that business or the beneficiary of that asset?
Massively. So there's two examples I'm going to give. So if you are a limited company director
Hmm,
and you have other directors, again, I ask this question to all my clients. If you were to pass away, then what happens?
good question.
And no one knows. And again, if you don't know, you don't know. I didn't know all this information until I got into the industry. So if me and you had a business, Mac,
Hmm.
I'm going to use myself, not you. If I passed away, you know, half the business is gonna go to my wife.
Right, because of what
Right.
you set up.
Yeah.
Because
So me and you are 50-50 in a limited
yeah.
company. I'm pretty sure you're not gonna want my wife to be making business decisions, are you? Right? You're just
Probably
not,
not. No,
right?
no,
But
no.
she's got the shares and she's like, you know what? I don't really like Mac. I'm gonna sell the shares to a competitor.
Hmm.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you have a shareholder agreement,
Yeah.
you can buy the shares and then buy her out. So again, when you get to more established business, they have shareholder agreements and
Yeah,
more
that's what I was
detail. Again,
coming
when
from.
you get in that corporate space, those
Yeah.
people understand that. But if you're trying to learn, you're never going to know this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's important to have these things set up as early as possible, because if that was to happen, you don't want to be fighting over the business over shares.
And is that something you get involved with as well in terms of shareholder agreements and all this, not just the insurance side? So it's whole protection by the sounds of it, not just
Yeah.
insurance.
Yeah. So with shareholder protection, again, you'd probably have to speak to a solicitor to draw that up. But I would say I will just do the insurance for that. So for example, if me and you had a business, let's say we had £1 million, and if I passed away, Mac, you would use the insurance money to buy the shares off my wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you could do it that way, and then you retain 100% of the business.
All right. So rewind, say that again. So if you passed away and the shares automatically gone to your wife, I could have insurance. Is that right?
Yeah, to buy her shares off.
To
Yeah,
buy her. And are these two different policies or part of the same
it's
policy?
just one. It's the same policy. Yeah.
The same policy. And that policy is based on, is that policy based on that company or is based on the individual themselves, the business owner?
Yeah, it's on the individual in the business. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah. So whatever the shares are, so if we're 50-50, we'll
Yeah.
say, look, the shares are worth £1 million.
Yeah.
If I die, you're gonna give the £1 million to my wife, and then you take the shares back. You
Yeah.
buy the shares off it. Yeah.
Okay. And the insurance will cover me for that.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So let's say her shares are valued at 500,000, for
Mhm.
example.
Mhm.
So I could have enough. I would have enough insurance cover to say, an insurance company would say, here's the 500,000 to your wife, and then the rest of the shares are mine.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
We'd have
interesting.
it each way as well. So
Yeah,
when
both
I deal
ways.
with limited company directors, I'd
Mm,
have it the other way around as well. Because again, with protection, it's everything. And like I said before, no one thinks of these things like you don't.
mm,
I think it's only when you get to a certain level and you're more established and you're around different elements of finance where it will come up. But if you're in the early phases, no one is going to talk about child protection and relevant life and
no.
exec IP. No one knows what they are. But yeah, if you are an established business, I would definitely say get a shareholder agreement and also get shareholder protection as well. Because if you don't get it done, it can be very messy. You've probably heard stuff in the past from the press about people fighting over shares of business owners died in it. Yeah, it's just a mess. You really
Yeah,
don't want that.
yeah. So I've heard that. So how are you getting the noise out there, the news out there, the information out there, so people can wake up and take this kind of action? Because I've met you several times, and sometimes and the insights you give, I'm thinking, even me, after being in business for over 25 years, the whole insurance arena. I've got protection in different places, and I've got protection in different arenas for all my different businesses. But again, it's an expert that advises me, and I take care of that and done. It's parked and it's taken care of. I pay the premiums. But again, even speaking to you, then you remind me, then I go back to the office and then I say to my wife, have we got protection for this and this? Yeah, yeah, we've got that in place. Okay, let me just check the documents. Okay, we're
Yeah.
good. So even with me, after 25 years in business and having multiple businesses, it's not at the forefront of my mind, but
It
it's a
never is.
thing.
I'm used to being the bottom of someone's post-it note when I ring people. Oh yeah, Adrian, you're on my list. I'm like, I'm at the bottom. Yeah. But it's fine. Like I said, I've done retail banking, I've done commercial banking, done investment banking, I've done consulting for Accenture, Deloitte, like Bloomberg. These are the biggest companies in the world. They have all this stuff like patterned down. Like
Right,
they
right.
have it. But the reason when you asked me the first question of why I got into self-employed entrepreneurship is helping everyone that doesn't know, because you're not going to know this stuff. And I think it really is important that people do that. I think after COVID, there are more people setting up businesses, more people going self-employed, more people doing stuff on the side than ever before.
Mm.
You've got to make sure that the business and yourself are financially protected.
Yeah,
Um, and there's another point as well, because again, the majority of my clients are limited company directors. If me and you have a business, have you heard of key person cover?
yeah, I
Yeah.
have. Yeah,
So if people don't know, a key person is someone in the business who's of major importance. It doesn't have to be a director. It could be the best salesperson. It could be an assistant. It could be an AI developer. Anyone that contributes to the profit of the business is classed as a key person. If that person had a critical illness or was on, long-term sick or passed away, that's
yeah.
going to impact the business. So again, if me and you, Mac, have a business, if I'm out, I've got diagnosed with cancer, it's not, hopefully I'll be fine, but I'm like, look, I'm going to have to take time off and I don't know when I'm coming back. And you're like, oh, that's not good. We've got this big tender coming up and, you're the tech guy. Like, I don't do that stuff. What's going to happen? With key person, you can get a cash injection to the business. Now, that
All
cash
right.
injection helps the business stay afloat if a key member of staff is out. You can also use that money to hire a
Mm,
temporary member of staff. Now, again, the more senior you are, the more expensive you are, right? So if let's say I'm a financial director of the company,
mm,
you'll use that money to go and get a temporary financial director, right? Now, that's probably going to be expensive.
true.
But because you've got key person cover, that's going to cover that until I come back.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so key person cover again. If you've got a limited company, you don't have to. It can be you can have one owner, one director, but if yourself and the other members of staff who are important, that again contribute to the profit of the business, you want to cover them.
Interesting. Look, what's your process then when you have a prospect who realizes that actually they're not protected? What do you go through? Obviously, you got to do some fact finding, and I suppose so. I'm just trying to see. and hear the process so people can realize that it's not onerous. You just have to answer some questions. Is that right? I
Yeah.
say that because my father was in insurance, and not business protection insurance, but life insurance, that kind of stuff. And so what is there like a 3-step, 4-step, 5-step process you would go through for them to to ensure that they get the adequate protection and cover that they need?
Yeah, so I think it's like 3 steps. So the fact
Okay.
find meeting, just understand more about you and your business, how much you turn over. Is it you? Do you have any other directors? Your family as well. So personal and business is the first step. The second bit is the medical questions, because again, that's a major part of the insurance. The healthier you are, the cheaper the premium is going to be. And then the third step is once I've got all that information, I'll go away and do my research and then see what's suitable for you. But yeah, really simple. It can be done in literally one meeting. It can be done if we've got time, or it can be 2 or 3. But the main thing when I speak to clients is getting their long-term view. You know, a lot of people say they get into businesses for their kids, and I'm like, well, if anything happens to you, you can't work, there is no money for the kids.
Of
So
course.
that's when I started with the income protection or your own private sick pay first.
Yeah.
A lot of people jump to the life insurance, which is fine, but you're more likely to be off work ill than you are to pass away.
Mm,
And then the medium term, in the UK, I think 1 in 2 of us are going to get cancer. And it's just getting higher and higher, the critical illnesses. Everyone knows someone that's been affected by that. And again, if you have, unfortunate to develop cancer, you do not want to be worrying about bills. And as
that's
a business owner, you do not want to be out of work, especially if you're self-employed and you've got something really, negative. It's gonna,
mm,
bills don't stop. I always tell clients, your bills are never going to stop. Your light bill, you still got to pay that, electricity bill, internet. It never stops.
true.
So if you can't work and the business comes to a stop, then it's a downward spiral,
My goodness.
basically.
The So in terms of the language you're using, business protection, insurance, and all this, is that typical? Because we have listeners from all over the world. So is it the same or roughly the same in different countries, or is the language different, the product's different?
Good question. The products are different. Now, I have a lot of people that come to me who go on Instagram and they're following a lot of things that Americans
That's
put
right.
online, and it's different
All right.
regulation. Yeah, it's different. It's not the same. So they'll tell me that they want to draw down on the life insurance.
Okay.
We can't do that in the UK.
Mhm.
If you live in America, you can do that. So the products do differ.
Okay. Okay. So wherever you are in the world, speak to a specialist to see how you protect yourself, how you protect yourself in business, whether you can work or not. Okay, got it. You're listening to Adrian Benjamin and Mac Attram, the business coach, and we like to bring you guests talking about all things wealth, money, income, business, and one of the most forgotten elements is this area of business protection, business insurance, making sure you're covered in case something happens to you and you are not able to work. What happens? That's where you need people like Adrian Benjamin. Now, I hope this is making sense to you. Adrian, if I want to say that if someone wants to get hold of you, they want to learn more, what is the best thing they can do? How do they get hold of you to discuss their needs?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, it's Adrian Benjamin. On Instagram, it's Adrian number 1B1. And then Facebook, it's Adrian Benjamin.
So, okay, we'll add all that to, so you said Instagram, Facebook, as well as LinkedIn, yes?
Then yeah.
We'll add them all to the footnotes of this show. So, now let me ask you, Adrian, is there something I should have asked you, I haven't asked you, which I suppose could be a surprise to your clients when they find out that why didn't they know this, or something that you need to share with us before we finish the session in a moment. Anything I should have asked you that I haven't asked?
I think you kind of covered it. I just wanted to go over one product before we finish. So life insurance, I think everyone kind of knows what that is because they put it out the most on TV.
That's right.
And also the adverts don't really make any sense because it's people on a beach having smiling, which doesn't make any sense.
Mm.
So like we said before, a lot of people get into business for their family and they want to leave a legacy. Now, if you're a limited company director, you can do that through life insurance. But if you put the life insurance through the business, it's called relevant life. You're giving money to your family, which is great if anything was to happen to you, but you're also, making your business more efficient because it's an allowable business expense. So some of the people listening might have in the UK, a massive corporation tax bill. Again, you can put, money into your pension that's tax efficient, but no one thinks about the insurance bit as being tax efficient. So that's another thing as well. So look at it as if you were to pass away, your clients or your business is going to pay for, your family. It's not coming out of your net salary. I think that's one of the biggest things that people don't realize. And again, like we said, if you had £1 million life insurance policy, that's going to be a massive help to your family, right?
Mhm.
And it's tax free as well. We didn't get into that. It's tax free. It's written into. So when you say why should people come to me, with regards to taxes as well, if you're doing things by yourself, you're not going to know things. You don't know
Right.
if you sign the right form. There are different types of trusts. Some trusts you can't change. Some trusts are a bit complicated. That's why it's always good to come to a specialist.
Right.
And
Right.
then also from the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, Robert Kiyosaki, when he goes to meetings, he always says he goes with his insurance broker.
Yeah.
But people always miss that because he wants to know the tax breaks. Yeah,
Mm.
if you re-listen to it, he does talk about his insurance broker quite a lot.
Right, 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 right. Oh, awesome. Well, it's been great speaking to you, Adrian. I really appreciate enlightening us all about this area of business operation where if you're not covered personally, you could be in your business or yourself or your family will be in serious problems if you are not covered. So I really appreciate that. You're listening to the Business and Wealth Show with Adrian Benjamin and Mac Attram. I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for listening in. Remember to subscribe, remember to follow, depending on which platform you are on. And remember, the algorithm loves interaction. So give us some emojis, give us some comments. What did you get out of this? What did you learn from this? And so we can bring you some more awesome guests, just like Adrian here. So, Adrian, thank you very, very much for jumping onto the Business and Wealth Show.
Okay, thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Have a great rest of your day. And everyone else, remember, don't just build your business for income, build your business for wealth. And business protection is part of protecting your hard work. Mac Attram checking out. Until next time, bye for now.